This is the only video covering the Computer Fundamentals Lecture 5, and this video will focus on application software. Software is a generic term for computer programs. Programs are the commands that tell a computer what task to perform. Software commonly falls into two categories: application software and system software. This lecture is going to be focused on application software. Application software are the programs that do the real work for users. The more commonly used applications are word processors, spreadsheets, web browsers, and email applications. However, application software cannot run by itself. It needs the system software to interact with all the parts of the computer. System software, including the operating system and all sorts of other software that enables a computer to function, will be looked at in detail in the next lecture. Application software is software that is used for human productivity or entertainment. Applications are usually created by computer programmers or teams of programmers. Software in general is either proprietary or commercial, where the source code used to create the applications is kept secret, or open source software, where, as the name suggests, the source code used to create the application is freely available to those who want to view it. Open source software is a collaborative project where anybody can study, change and improve the software and then redistribute it in a modified form. Examples of open source software that are quite commonly used on many computers are VLC Media Player, the Firefox browser, GIMP as we used in image manipulation, and also others like Audacity, which is audio editing software, and Apache OpenOffice, which has a suite of tools similar to Microsoft Office. While there are many professionals who believe that open source software is unreliable, there's no denying that well-written and structured open source software has, on more than one occasion, driven commercial software competitors to make sweeping changes and radical improvements to their own software. Commercial or proprietary software is sold by vendors either through retail stores or over the internet. The source code of the application is protected and can't be accessed or changed by anybody except those people involved in the production of the software. The most widely used commercial software is Microsoft Word, which is part of the Microsoft Office suite. It has become the default standard for word processing across the Western world. How it got there is a whole nother story in itself. Now, as more user-friendly and intelligent software or apps are created, people no longer need to think like computer programmers to complete the tasks they wish to perform. In its earliest forms, Microsoft Word documents had codes not dissimilar to the HTML tags embedded in them, so that when the file was processed, the formatting you wanted would appear. Now, it's a WYSIWYG, that stands for what you see is what you get, application, where the formatting is done on the screen in front of you, and the codes needed to complete the formatting are hidden from the user. Applications help us to use computers to do specific tasks. We can create written documents with applications like Word, do financial calculations with software like Excel and MYOB, browse the internet with one of the many browsers that exist, edit movies using something as simple as iMovie all the way up to Adobe Premiere and After Effects, create web pages, whether it's using Dreamweaver, which does a lot of the coding for you, or Notepad++, as you will, in the web coding topic. We can communicate with others using video communications with software like Skype or FaceTime. Manipulate images by using GIMP or Photoshop. And then there's always playing games and playing the media that we surround ourselves with, like music and video. So where do we get apps from? Well, we can buy commercial software, and as I said before, from retail shops or online. You can download free software from the internet, known as freeware or public domain software, or you can even create it yourself. Or you can engage the services of a company that will create it for you. So for example, when a business like IES has a specific need, they can create their own piece of software. IES has MyFY. It's built in-house and probably isn't much use to anyone else. Many operating systems represent files by an icon and also a name and file extension. The file extension can give more information about the file's format or what it's supposed to do. The file extension tells the operating system which application to use to open the file. Sometimes the file extension is not visible to avoid confusing the user. In Windows, file extensions are very standard. .exe are executable files, .jpg and png are for image files, as we learnt in the image manipulation topic. And up until relatively recently, Windows operating system only had 3-letter file extensions. Now that rule has been relaxed and we can have 4 or even more letters in our file extensions. The Mac operating system has always hidden file extensions by storing something similar inside the file itself. We'll now consider the difference between documents and applications. A document is a computer file that contains passive data created and recognized by one or more applications. However, it always needs an application to open it or create another file of its type. Many applications can export, so that is save, or import, open, the documents of other applications. For example, OpenOffice and Pages can export files created in them as Microsoft Word format documents. In fact, each of these applications, Microsoft Word, OpenOffice and Pages, can import and export documents in the native document format of the others. Applications and documents are just different types of computer files. A file is a named collection of data saved on a storage medium, like a hard disk drive or a flash drive. An application contains a set of coded instructions that can be executed by the computer. If you were to open an application in a text editor, it would appear as a series of random and wacky characters that make no sense to anybody. Yet when you open an application's document, like a Word file or an Excel file, then the software interprets what's in the file and people can read them. In some situations, the word file is a better description than document. For example, an archive file. It's not really a document and it's not really an application because it can't run without the compression application being present on the machine. Inevitably, there will be errors in software. Software is written by human beings and we don't always get it right. Now, throughout the rest of the IT course, you will come across situations and examples which will help you understand why errors exist in software. And finally, to create applications, programmers write the instruction in what's generally called a third-generation programming language, which looks close to human language but has certain rules about how the instructions are put together. Common languages include C, C++, C#, Java and Python, and when it comes to do programming in Semester 2, you'll be using a learning package called Alice. However, to change the structured human language into a language that the computer understands, which is just a series of zeros and ones of binary data and binary coded instructions called machine code, you need a piece of software called a compiler. The compiler will take the program's code and through a series of algorithms change it into the machine language which the computer understands, and all things being right, it will perform the given task correctly.